All right, Rob and I are back again, and today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. Yesterday it was kind of about getting that culture going, what you can do as a leader. Today, my question for you, Rob, is when an organization realizes that its culture is unhealthy or when it's toxic, where should it start?
Well, the first part of that is the realization that it's toxic or unhealthy, right? There's a leadership saying that says the first part of solving a problem is defining reality. So you've got to be able to not only define reality, but you've got to be able to deal with reality. And a lot of organizations, not only do they not define it, but sometimes they don't want to deal with it. All right, so having the right perspective is the first thing. And then yesterday we talked about mission and values. So going back to the mission and values. So if we go back to the mission and values and we talk about being a toxic culture, then does everything, when we talked about the filter, does every behavior, which we designed, we said organizational behavior is simply how we behave.
Right.
So all the behavior falls under, hey, this is our culture or this isn't our culture. And that's the way that you not only define a toxic behavior, but you start to change it. Because if something is toxic, then we would go, what? That's not our culture.
Yes.
But if something is, now I want you to think about this. I would like to see us, all of our team members or your employees or people in your organization, when something is the culture, you reinforce it because that which gets rewarded gets repeated.
That's right.
So when we think about that, toxic culture can be changed in two ways. You identify the toxic part of the culture and we say, that's not our culture. And then the second part is if you do something correct, we go, that is our culture. So what you're doing is you're creating repeatability in somebody's mind of that's the way we do it. Now, here's what happens. Once we start to change the culture, it goes from being a problem to be solved to attention to be managed. And that's the big thing. Because we go from, once we run everything through that lens of the core values. Hey, this is our value. This is the way we behave around here. This is the way we behave. All right, now, we've identified the problem. We've solved the problem. Now it goes from a problem to be solved to attention to be managed. So now we reevaluate. We adjust quarterly. Some people do it weekly. Some people do it monthly. I like to do it monthly just because of the fact I like to keep my hand on the pulse of the culture. Because if you don't keep your hand on the pulse of the culture, then what happens is the culture leaks. And so if you don't do that regularly, then it leaks, and then what happens, it ultimately becomes missional or organizational drift because we've now identified the culture, we've made it better, but if we don't keep on it, and if we don't keep maintaining it, and we don't keep evaluating it, we drift from where we originally wanted to be.
So just because you get it to where you want it doesn't mean it stays there. You got to keep it there.
I would almost say that it's harder to keep it there than it is to get it there.
Whoa.
Because most organizations are 2 or 3 terminations away from a great culture. Okay? And so then culture starts with hiring. And once you get it there, the deal is then you have to keep it there. And you keep it there through the filters and using this language. That's not our culture. That is our culture. That's the way we do it. Let me give it a different way of looking at it. That's not the way we do it here, but let's look at it, and then everything goes back to the mission and the values.
I think when I hear you say that, a practical action would be to just analyze the behaviors happening in your organization, and almost like a T-chart. These are the behaviors we like, and these are what don't align with our culture. One of the things I like to say is you got to be aware before you can be intentional. So let's just be aware of the behaviors that are happening and then say it either is in alignment or it's not in alignment.
Observation, evaluation, correction.
Really good.
Observation, evaluation, correction. You know, you probably heard it said that experience is a great teacher. It's actually evaluate experience is a great teacher. In other words, an NFL football team doesn't just watch films. They watch films, they make the adjustments, they have butts on the line, and then they make the corrections before the next week. That's the way you do it. But a lot of people don't have those first two steps of observation and evaluation because they're not aware of what's going on in their culture. Therefore, it leaks or it's drifted, and then there becomes a frustration gap between where they want to be and where they are, and then frustration fills that gap.
There you have it. What you got to do is you got to go find what doesn't align.
That's right.
And take what Rob said and put it into practice. We got some more for you. We'll see you tomorrow.